At long last, Selina made it to the end of the tunnel where she heard machinery and saw light. Stopping at the edge, she lay down on her back, catching her breath. She did not know how long she had been pulling herself along the floor, but it had to have been a long time. Hurt would be a gross understatement. The metal of her prosthetic interfaces were cold and stabbed directly into nervous tissue. Debris had got into the small crevices and would need to be cleaned. A relatively easy job, however. The dirty contest was starting to send nonsense data to her from false connections, due to lodged metallic gunk of some kind. Looking at herself in the brighter light, she grimaced. It had been one thing to feel the wounds, but another to see it all. Cuts, scrapes, gashes, road rash, and thick, cylindrical bruises from when she'd been smashed against the support beams of the conveyor above her. Bits of glass were stuck into her skin, reflecting the light in odd ways. Her two piercings had somehow been torn off, as well as a needle or two stuck into her supple flesh. Blood, dirt, and slime covered her, and she was certain she would get multiple infections after all this was over, due to her weakened state. However, revenge had crystallized inside into her mind, and whoever did this to her was going to suffer as she did. Having caught her breath, she looked over the ledge. The conveyor above her jutted away from the hole, and was dumping everything into a grinder, with a wide metal funnel some 10 feet below her, to catch the falling trash. On the wall she could see an access ladder, lit up with the same kind of dim LEDs as the maintenance path she had just traversed. Not even her metal skeleton could survive that grinder. Suppressing a grimace at the morbid thought of imagining her mangled corpse, she edged closer to see how she would get down. Angling herself, she rolled out of the hole, and knew she fucked up immediately. Her immense pain, dim light, and her missing eye had all conspired to ruin her depth perception. The rim of the funnel was closer than she had anticipated. Her head hit the lip of the metal with a loud clang and altered her trajectory, sending her into a bit of a spin. The back of her head hit the wall she had just fallen from, and with another painful thud, fell onto the floor with a wet smack. It took a long time for the stars to clear. Rolling over onto her front, she tried to move again, but slipped on some kind of liquid, and fell face first back onto the floor. Trying to move 3 more times with the same results, she stopped and looked at the liquid properly, instead of simply dismissing it as some kind of garbage slime. It was blood. Lots and lots of blood. "Voodoo!" Giaca shouted in utter frustration, slamming her small furry fists onto the metal of the console, doing little else except hurting herself. She had tried everything she could think of, but the small Tesla remained locked out of her console, and the same infernal message repeated itself. "You shall not pass." Whatever kind of Guardian program software had been installed in the prosthetics, she had been trying to analyze did more than just protect. It led to an unexpected and quite brutal data attack that crippled her machine and hijacked every process similar to ransomware, leaving her with a very expensive brick. The only thing that had stopped the military-grade Guardian software from spreading was the fact that her computer had to have a physical connection. It had no wireless capability. If a military-grade Guardian program was in the prosthetics, what would be on the computer and phone? Cracking those would require more specialized equipment, and programs that she did not have on hand at the moment. Her long, soft and furred ears were pulled back in anger, as she was almost snarling, teeth barely visible along her snout at the avatar on the vid screen, an old human holding a staff. As if finished repeating his one line, a text input window flashed up again, if her translator was correct, said, "Speak friend," and enter. Hopefully her goons had better luck than she. As it was, she was tempted to simply slag her machine and get a new one, paid for by turning the prosthetics in front of her into individual parts. Hearing the door to her private back room open, her left ear swiveled to hear who had just entered. "I sure hope you had a better time of it than I," Dionysus said to her 2 Nimian henchmen. "We did, boss," the bigger of the 2 males replied. "We took so long because we had to bag a few witnesses. By now they should all be slashed from the grinder." "If you scrub the recordings, nothing can be traced back," the smaller one said. "So I think we should leave right now." "No," Dionysus said sternly. "Ring security has been watching for unscheduled takeoffs. I've got a really bad feeling about all this. I think we've been set up by our employer." "Boss," the big one said. "Why do you think that?" "'Cause, Trocor, I've been hearing rumors of a heavily modified human assassin. Those prosthetics we stole have a military-grade assault guardian that locked me out of my own computer. No. There's going to be questions. Questions I don't want to answer nor think about. We're going to cut our losses, go to another system somewhere, and lay low for a long time. So, go to our clients, get half of all their credits, all of their good electronics, and tell them that their debt is paid and to never speak of us. We leave in 6 rotations." "You got it, boss," the smaller one then added. "All done quietly, right?" "Right." Gianaka hoped it would be soon enough. Selina looked at all the presents before her, grinning. It was the most she had ever seen. Smiling, she managed to pry open the lid to her cake and snuck a bit of the delicious strawberry frosting. Going to get a second fingerful, she was suddenly yanked backwards, the motion hurting her neck a bit. A moment later, she saw herself tucked into a massive elbow, like she was nothing but a child-sized football. Her vision blurred as she was spun around, and she heard her daddy shout in absolute defiance at the vehicle careening towards them, having bounced upwards from a curb at extremely high speed. Unable to dodge while protecting her, Selina felt her daddy plant his legs to the ground and push against the undercarriage of the vehicle. The weight and momentum of the vehicle proved too great, and his thick, sturdy arm shattered and turned into a pink and bloody mess all the way up to his elbow. With strength born of a parent protecting their child, the great man's shoulder checked the undercarriage as his arm was no longer there, protecting his daughter with everything he had. The weight and momentum of the car had been shunted just enough so that when it ploughed into father and child, crushing them beneath the wooden picnic table, death was not instantaneous. The car had landed on top of the man, his tyres screaming against his back and spraying chunks of flesh and blood everywhere. Moments later, as she was trying to draw fading, gasping breaths, she heard the car get flung aside and her father was pushed off her. Looking into the eyes of her favourite uncle, she heard her daddy say something, and then saw her uncle cutting into her with knives, not feeling a thing except a kind of cold. And as her vision started to fade away, she heard her daddy start to say something she could not make out. The last thing she heard was her Uncle Robert's voice. "I've got you, Selina. I've got you. You're safe. Uncle Rob's here now." "Daddy!" Selina shouted, as she tried to sit up, failing due to a bolt of pain spreading throughout what was left of her body, and lack of limbs. "Oh, good, you're awake," a voice said. However, the translator next to her made the voice disconcerting, as she heard it from two different places. Selina said, "Where am I?" "A safe place," the voice replied, as an older male Mipos came into her view. "My nephew found you, then brought you to me. The hospital in this section of the ring is syndicate-controlled. Since you were left to die as we both suspect, my nephew felt it wise to bring you to me." "How long was I unconscious?" 3.5 planetary rotations. "That's a long time. Who controls the hospital?" "I don't know," the older gentleman replied. "I know that the hospital do not be trusted in treating someone such as yourself. Incidentally, I would not try to push yourself. I had to scrub and pull all manner of filth off and out of you before I could treat you. Really, if you weren't human, you'd have died. You almost did anyways, you were so cold." She filed away that bit of information away for later use. "I need to call someone," she finally said. "By all means," the Nipop said. "What's the number?" Rutak had neglected as much work as he could, using whatever meager sick hours he had saved up as well as his few vacation days. He knew something had happened to Selina, but could not yet prove it. No one he asked had seen anything, and the security around her last known location were utter shit, and did not even try to look or access their camera records, stating there was nothing from that day. Gerd had been very much the same, getting the same results as well. It was as if Selina had simply vanished into thin air. Gerd, however, could not help for the time being, as she was getting her actual wetware interface tercized. Having nearly given up hope, the unregistered number that called him was a surprise. What was an even greater surprise was the familiar voice on the other end. "Rutek, is that you?" Selina asked. "I thank the Maker," Rutek exclaimed with relief. "What in the void happened?" "I'll explain later. Are you planetside?" "Yeah, I am." "Listen, this is important. I need you to go to my house and get my spare set of prosthetics, including my eye and some clothes. Then come up to the ring. Bring a weapon." "Selina, what's going on?" Rutek asked loudly, getting odd looks from other diners in the restaurant. "I can't tell you over this phone. Please do what I asked, okay?" Selina nearly begged him. "When you get to the ring, call this number, okay?" Alright. I'll do it and get your stuff," Rutek said, getting up and throwing away his half-eaten meal into the garbage. "Thank you. I'll send you the passcode," Selina said, and the line went dead. A moment later, a message arrived with a code to get into her home, and a number to reach her at. "What in the 12th place did you get into?" Rutek asked, as he started up his hoverbike, zooming off. It did not take long for him to arrive at her home, inputting the passphrase, a bizarre code really, on the human language text pad. Up, down, left, right, BA, start. The door unlocked and opened on its own, letting him enter as soon as he hit the accept button. Going upstairs and into her bedroom, he could not help but look around a bit as he searched out her closet. Her room was tidied up. Blankets and a pillow signified her sleeping area, and a hollow picture of the most muscled human he had ever seen next to her pillow. Finding her closet, he was unsure what to pick out for her. Settling on a black skirt he had seen her wear before, a random shirt of some kind, and one of her many thin, stringy pairs of underwear. Double-checking, he found socks and a pair of shoes, stuffing everything into a bag. Going downstairs, he put her spare prosthetics in a case that was designed to hold them, as well as the bottle of eye drops next to the spare eye. Making sure he had everything one last time, he left and locked up Selina's home, and sped off towards his own. While Riek always had a pair of knuckle dusters on him, he felt it prudent to get his pulse pistol as well. Parking his hover bike in the parking garage, and paying for 3 full rotations, just in case, he locked it up, and soon found himself in the orbital elevator up towards the ring. Disembarking, he called the number he was given. "Hello? Selina?" he asked, leaving the platform.
"Yes. Hey, Riek," she said from the other line. "I need you to go to junction D093, okay? You'll see an old Bimpot's mail waiting on a bench next to a map display. Ask him how his day is. He'll say something poetic. You tell him about what happened to Gert in our way home when we all went out dancing. Turn off your phone, it's not safe," Selina said, almost begging, then turned off the line. She hoped he would listen. Sometime later, Selina heard the door to the apartment open. Holding her breath and trying not to make a sound, she hoped it was Riek and the doctor, and not someone that found her to finish the job, as it were. "Selina?" She had Rutek's voice call out from the entry. "Where are you?" "I'm in here."
Arriving quickly, Riek simply stared. Selina's hair was a mess. She was covered in scrapes, cuts, and stitches here and there, the biggest of which was on her forehead, was missing all of her prosthetics, had thick, bar-shaped bruises all over her, and was naked. "What happened?" He arrived, and went to her side quickly, dropping the bags on the bed and holding her close against him. Wriggling bit into his arm, she spoke.
"They tried to kill me. I was stunned, then they took my everything, then threw me into the trash chute like garbage to be disposed of. They did it to others too. There was so much blood under that grinder."
Whoa, okay. Start from when you were messaging me, okay? Selina did just that. During the tale, she had Riek help her put her prosthetics back on, thanking him greatly for his forethought in getting the eye drops. Currently, she was in the shower with Riek in the doorway, as she did not trust being alone.
"I'm going to find out who tried to kill me, and you're going to help me," Selina stated. "I'm not just going to report this to the police either. They should have been doing their jobs, and from what you've told me, they could have been in on this too."
"It did seem strange," he said in agreement. "Ring security are generally better than that, though. Typically unhelpful."
"Seems that's universal, then. Security operatives high in their own authority," Selina said, then asked, "Can I have those clothes you brought?"
"Sure, here," Riek said, as he tossed the bag of clothes into the fresher. When he was closing the door, he sat next to Fully. "I toss them inside, okay?"
"All right,"
Selina said, turning off the water. There was a bit of a rustle as she dug through the bag and exclaimed,
"You bought me these to wear?"
"I just grabbed stuff," Riek defended. "I didn't spend time to find things that went well together or whatever."
"Well, guess I'm an action flick hottie now," she said from behind the door. "I sort of the belief you chose this on purpose, but whatever."
The door opened and Selina walked out wearing a rather short skirt, something much more suited to a nightclub than day wear, and a rather skimpy and risque top held together mostly by tight strings. The top did show a lot of skin, showing off the various wounds she had received. "Well?" was the only thing Riek could say.
"This is your fault,"
she said, trying to adjust her skirt a bit, blushing slightly as she did so, then took a deep breath.
"Okay, give Dr. here some money. He's the reason why I'm alive at all. Then we can go see ring security."
Having taken the lead, Selina walked into the ring security building that held jurisdiction over junction C167. Pushing a being out of the front of the line, she stared down the individual and those behind him. The various beings, seeing the small, wounded and heavily modified human stay silent, and let Selina do as she pleased. Staring down the ring security administrator, Selina simply stated,
"I need records of junction C167 from about 3 rotations ago."
The Toxics administrator swallowed loudly and asked, "What's your authority code of requisition?" Selina took a steadying breath and simply said, "You'll give me those recordings, or you'll be excreting to bags the rest of your pathetic life." With a look of trepidation, the administrator replied, Your authority code has been recognized. Just give me a few minutes, thank you." It took some time, as stated, before the administrator spoke again. There appears to be no records of the specified rotation."
"Doesn't that strike you as more than a little odd?"
Well, yes."
"So do something about it while I'm still in a good mood," Selina said, her voice chilling.
Well, that would require a specialist and request to get passed upwards. We don't have someone like that here."
"This is bull,"
Selina said. That did something that surprised even herself. Perhaps it was everything that had happened to her. That feeling of utter helplessness that had suffused her being, and the silent vow to never be so helpless again. Right now, with her would-be murderer still on the loose, she felt as though she would forever be looking for them, paranoid at the dark end of corners. Whatever the reason, she jumped up and pushed herself over the counter and started walking through the security building. "Hey!" the administrator tried to shout. "You can't do that!" "You gonna stop her?" Riek asked, as he hopped over the counter, following after Selina. The Toxics let them go, his silence an answer to the Dionysus question. Wait up, Rutek said, hurrying to Selena. You can't read anything.
True, I need...
You can't be back here, a Mipos security officer said.
You'll do what? Selena said, cutting the woman off. Do you think you can take on a very pissed-off human? Look at me. I just crawled out of hell and I'll fucking do it again.
Giving time for the Mipos to take in her battered state, Selena continued.
Now, you'll take me to your server room and give me administrator access and then we'll be off. Or we can do this the hard way.
Orbital Ring Junction Security Director Tshirt looked at the petite, heavily modified and badly wounded human before her. The statement she made of crawling out of hell seemed to ring true, considering all the wounds and injuries piled onto such a small frame. There had been rumours coming in from above her pay grade about a heavily modified human assassin, and, looking at the petite, battered and scantily clad female before her, she could not help but to agree. Very well, ORJST Tshirt said. Follow me, please. She led them to a back room with a bunch of electronic equipment. However, there's only one terminal. Going to the terminal in the back of the room, into a cramped space, Sir signed on using a code of some kind. This is my personal account for this department. Get what you need and leave.
Thank you,
Selena said, without the attitude, and began to work her digital magic. It took perhaps half an hour, but Selena had found what she was looking for. Digital footprints, linked to a physical place.
Thank you again, Director, Selena said, as the two of them left. Your cybersecurity needs a lot of work, by the way.
Selena and Rutek finally arrived at a business storefront. One that declared to sell parts for all things electronic or prosthetic, both new and used. You sure this is it? Rutek asked from their place on the other side of the street.
Yes, I'm positive about it.
Alright, Rutek said, as he adjusted his knuckle duster in his right hand. You sure you don't want a weapon?
No, I don't need one. I've disabled the strength limiters during reattachment. My skeletal system can handle the stress. My bones are metal. Most of them, anyways.
Rutek nodded as they crossed the street and entered the surprisingly large shop. Seeing all the gizmos, gadgets, computers, and various communication devices on display, one caught her eye. It was her phone.
I knew this was the place, she said,
looking it over and ripping the anti-theft device and case apart in her hands.
Damn, it's been flashed. I bet they transferred all my money out too.
Hey, you can't just... a large-sized Nimian male said to her, then paused halfway for his sentence.
You just gave yourself away, Selena said. I can see your stress response clear as day. What? Didn't think I'd claw my way back from the dead? Who put you up to it? Why did you try to have me murdered and
Selena was suddenly tackled by Rutek, as rapid pulse fire ripped through the spot she had just been standing in, destroying the merchandise behind. You were right, this is the place, Rutek said on the ground next to her. You said she was dead, a feminine voice said from the back. How was I supposed to know? We stunned her in the hours before we dumped them.
You get the gunner, I'll get the Nimian, okay? Selena said,
then quickly sprinted the distance to the man, crouching low. A series of pulse pistol fire was exchanged between Rutek and Dunker, as each one used the slowly building debris as cover. Neither could get a good bead on the other, and neither wanted to shoot towards the boarding pair of fighters for fear of hitting their respective ally.
Why, huh?
Selena shouted, parrying rapid blows with quick precision, each of the Nimian strikes packing a punch comparable to any professional boxer. Within inside his reach, she delivered a series of rapid punches, strengthifying her small stature, and sending the brute on the defensive, two of his arms holding his torso, while his primary two started to block and parry, denying her assault any further. As the two fought and traded heavy blows over the sound of pulse pistol fire, Rutek shouted, Selena, watch out! His warning came a bit too late, and his distraction ended with a glancing strike to his leg, hindering his mobility. Selena tried to turn but failed, as a second Nimian male, smaller than the one she was currently fighting, hit her with a powerful haymaker from a metal pipe across her back with all of his arms. A metal ring permeated the shop, above even the pulse fire exchange as Selena flew towards the back of the shop, shattering the wall-mounted display cases. The Nimian had dropped the ringing pipe, a grimace on his face, as the reverberation stung his arms. What is she, made of metal? The Nimian said, trying to get feeling back into his numb appendages. Selena spasmed on the floor for a moment, writhing in agony. As she got up, she heard more pulse fire. What was one more bruise anyway? I'll take you both out, Selena said, hopping off the back desk and running towards the smaller one. Careful, brother, the big Nimian said, and I'm holding a particular spot on his side. She's strong, don't underestimate her. The smaller one had trouble blocking Selena's rapid, powerful strikes, as his arms were still stinging from his haymaker. Rutek was having a hard time pinning down the far more agile and kangaroo-like Tezot, especially with his leg wound. Chancing a glance at Selena, he could tell that she was holding her own against the two brutes, while he was having a hard time against this one. Firing a quick series of shots at the creature with metaphorical springs for legs. If you could just clip one of them, the far more delicate Tezot would be no match. Ducking again from another volley of pulse fire, he checked his weapon's power cell. At 64%, he could still use it for a while longer. Firing blindly in the direction of where he thought the bounding Tezot was, in order to buy some time to think, he realized he needed to do something bold, and more than likely reckless. Moving to another upturned table just in time to avoid being peppered with pulse pistol fire from above, he knew the small woman would win this battle of attrition. Seeing the Tezot expose herself as she finished her arc, he ran away from his cover towards her, firing as fast as his model would allow, only for it to cease, as he could not call fast enough, its internal safeties engaging. Hearing that the volley was over, the small Tezot woman bounced on her legs, gaining height and momentum quite quickly, and firing on the Daishin as he threw his overheated weapon at her. They both hit their respective targets at the same time. With a grunt, Rutek took the 3 pulse shots to his chest, while the Tezot's trajectory was changed just enough by the force of the overheated pulse pistol, the impact of which pushed the air out of her lungs. Landing in a heap, she hastily threw the burning weapon off her, already smelling singed fur. She had been so distracted that she did not see the charged knuckle duster thrown at her powerful, springy legs. The impact as it exploded with kinetic force sent the duster flying randomly, and rendered the Tezot's left foot a mangled, stringy mess. Rutek arrived moments later, and began to bandage and tie up the small wound so they could question her later, leaving Selena to fight the 2 Nimians by herself, as he was pretty much out of the fight. Selena stood in between the 2 strong Nimians. Her prosthetics were starting to become sluggish, though she was the only one that noticed. The ones she had were not built for prolonged combat, and the only reason why they held up under such stress was because of superior materials and optimal upkeep. The 2 brutes were sporting bruises all over, and she was certain the big one had a cracked rib from her initial assault. The aches and pains of the last few days were really eating into her, as well as that pot shot with the pipe that stung so badly. Ducking under a blow, she saw a chance, the second one for the entire short fight. Getting in close, she delivered 4 strikes in rapid succession to the inner side of the smaller Nimian's upper arm, and darted out quickly. The man, however, howled in pain, holding his arm that now flopped about uselessly. "She got my Jewish nerve!" he exclaimed to his brother through gritted teeth. "Shit, I think it's ruptured!" It was a permanent injury. An explosive sound from the side of the shop grabbed all of their attention as a knuckle duster flew outside, shattering one of the few intact windows as it exited the shop. As they looked, they saw Rutek go over to the downed Tezot and apply a tourniquet or something similar to the unconscious woman. "She's got your asses, human," the big Nimia said. "My bro and I are just some dumb goons. Now, we're gonna leave and never see you again. You can have the Tezot."
"Why did you try to have me killed?"
Selena asked again. "Nothing personal, just orders and business."
"Who gave them?"
"Don't really know," he said, as his brother shuffled closer to him. "Money's good enough for us to not ask. Dianka ran the operation here. Now, if you excuse us."
"If I ever see the 2 of you again," Selena said, voice laden with malice, "you're going to wish I'd have killed you." They both left as quick as they could, leaving Selena and Rutek alone with the unconscious Tezot woman. Selena said, moving towards Rutek and the Tezot. "Ring security should be here soon, I think."
"Yeah," Rutek said. "Think we should stay or leave?"
"Leave," Selena said. "I want to question her myself. I don't trust the police nor the hospital here, but I need to find some things first. You go, I'll catch up."
With a groan, Rutek picked up the unconscious Tezot and made his way out of the destroyed store. Selena, however, had gone off to the only other room in the store. If her prosthetics were still around, they would be there. Looking around, she saw that they were in the process of being dismantled into component parts and would need to be fully repaired. It seemed that the full reason for them to still be in the process was that everything used Terran standard measurements rather than galactic standard. Small miracle, that. Finding a duffel bag, she shoved all of her prosthetics and parts into them, as well as her laptop, which, oddly enough, did not seem to be touched. Spying another high-end laptop, she grabbed that too. Looking around quickly to see what else she could pilfer quickly, she saw a data cube, and took that as well. Leaving, Selena caught up to Rutek, as sirens could be heard. Hal arrived to a scene of utter chaos. The whole store was trashed. Pulse rifle residue was everywhere, the walls, floor, and on the ceiling as well. Broken merchandise was strewn around, broken glass littered the floor. The back display case looked like someone had been thrown into it. "This is going to give forensics a time of it," he said, as he sent a survey drone to do a preliminary investigation and to see if hostiles were still inside. Finding no one, he recalled the drone and called in forensics proper. He was sure he had just missed whatever caused this chaos. Checking who owned the store yielded little besides it being owned by a Tezot female who employed 2 Nimians. Digging further on the console in his hovercar proved that the names were fake. Expertly done, as the false information had deceived civilian and orbital ring security. Not that those over-glorified plaza officers were good at anything besides pomp. As a director of a planetary enforcement agency, he had far greater skill than those peons and better tools. Orbital ring security had finally gotten off their rear ends and set up a proper cordon, instead of just waving beams away from the scene. While he had the authority to walk into the scene, he wanted it properly done and acknowledged that there were others with greater skill than he in forensic evidence gathering. Hal simply waited. Janaka groaned as she stared into wakefulness. Her chest hurt, and she knew it was bruised under her short, soft fur, but that was nothing compared to the throbbing of her left leg. Hissing in agony, she tried to sit up, only to find herself bound to the bedposts.
"Oh, good," she heard a feminine voice say. "You're awake."
Janaka turned and saw the smallest, darkest, most heavily modified human she had ever seen. The human was wearing rather revealing, torn-up clothes. Her organic parts were covered in all manner of bruises, cuts, scrapes, and various stitching. Combined with 4 prosthetic limbs that looked like they had seen much better days, the human female had the visage of utter terror.
"Where am I?"
the Tezard asked.
"Not the hospital and not with planetary enforcement," Selena said. "Now, depending on how you answer my questions, well, I'm certain you don't want to know the alternative."
Pausing for a moment to let her not-so-subtle threat process, she continued.
"Who ordered you to kill me?"
At this point, the door opened and Rutek walked in. He was shirtless and wearing shorts, showing bandages across his thigh, chest, and 2 spots on his tail. "So, she's awake, huh?" he said. "Get anything out of her?"
"She was just about to answer, weren't you?"
Yes, Dinaka finally said after a moment. "You said you wanted to know who wanted you killed? Well, I don't know. I received that order from my handler. Got information and instructions and half pay up front in a physical Dropbox. Then I saw that you were on the ring. My guns didn't have to go planet-side. It was too good of an opportunity to pass up. You should have just died like you were supposed to."
"I'm human, we die on our terms," Selena said. "How do you contact this handler?"
"I don't. Whoever it is contacts me first."
"And you're okay with working for someone like that?"
"The credits make it worthwhile."
"I know. I transferred your everything into my name."
"What? You can't do that!"
"I can and I did. You left me for dead. Did you not think I'd come back and seek revenge and retribution?" Selena said. "I'm human, and if something doesn't kill us outright, we'll fuck your shit up when we come back. Ravers don't rage like a human scorned. I am very much scorned."
The Tezzer remained silent.
"Come on, Rutek. Let's turn her into enforcement. Maybe I can double dip and get a reward out of her," Selena said,
then proceeded to blindfold and hogtie the Tezot. Making sure the 2 of them had everything, Selena found Doc sitting in his kitchen, sipping on a tea of some sort, a media tablet in front of him.
"Thank you so much," she said to him. "Without you or your nephew, I'll be dead right now, and I don't think I can ever pay that back. If there's anything you need, anything at all, contact me and I'll make sure you get it, okay?"
"You've given me plenty enough already. There's a very generous amount of credits already," Doc replied, and said again as she input her contact information onto his tablet. "But I'll let you know if there's anything I'll need your help with, okay?"
"Thank you again,"
Selena said, as she adjusted the rope holding the wounded Tezot. As Rutek and Selena began their long, slow trek together towards a security station of some kind, Rutek asked, "How did you learn to fight like that? I swear it was like watching an action vid."
"I told you," Selena said with a grin. "I was taught by my uncle and all of his friends. They were all ODST and taught me various tricks and combat techniques. It took 2 of those Nimians to wear me down. You didn't do bad yourself, taking on that Tezot. I mean, speedy things, them."
"Yeah, mean weapon she had too," Rutek said. "Modified for rapid-firing heat dispersal, as well as having a gyroscopic stabilizer aim assist of some kind. The yield is a little on the low side, but the rate of fire makes up for it. I kinda like it. I'm lucky I've had hard scales. I'd probably be dead otherwise."
"Guess we both roughed up pretty bad, huh?" Selena said, then added, "Those knuckle dusters you had were pretty nice. I should have gotten a pair. How do they work, anyways?"
"Those are nicer," he said with a bit of a smile. "They have built-in shield emitters that have a burst effect, delivering great kinetic energy over a small area. They're only good for 2 or 3 bursts, but that's usually enough. I've only ever used them in the odd bar fight." They lapsed into companionable silence as they made their way along the streets of the ring. Due to their obvious injuries, the Tezot tied and slung over Selena's shoulder, and that each of them carried a pulse pistol in the open. They made quite the scene. Beings of all species gave them a wide berth. "We're going to be on the Infosphere," Rutek said, after some time had passed.
"I'm counting on it," Selena replied. "I'm sending a message to whomever is listening. I'm not to be fucked with."
Taking a breath, she continued.
"I came to this planet to help people. Now I've gotten mixed up into whatever this is. I'm hoping that I'm no longer a target, at least not an easy one. I just want to go back to the way things were. Something tells me that's not going to happen."
"No, I don't think so," Rutek agreed. "There's too much invested in that Tezot, I think."
Yeah. That's what I was thinking too."
Before long, Rutek and Selena arrived at the security station. Walking in and pushing the few others in line out of the way, they made their way to the administrator.
"I believe there's a reward for this being," Selena said,
as she dropped the Tezot on the counter hard, making the small woman whimper in pain. "Let me get my superior." Hal listened to the tale told to him by both the human and Dionysus. It was chilling, and he could tell that bits of it were edited, so he was not getting the full version, but it was enough for him to use. The fact that our local hospital was fully under syndicate control was actually news to him, and signaled that far too many within planetary enforcement were compromised agents. "That's a lot to take in," Hal finally said, leaning back in the chair he was sitting in. "It's the truth," Rutek said. "Something as wild as this usually is," Hal replied.
"Now," Selena said, "I want to know if there's any kind of monetary payment for the capture and live delivery of that Tezot."
"So, you're a bounty hunter then?" Hal asked.
"If that's what it takes to get paid, yes."
"Yes, there is. However, there's the matter of evidence collection, data forensics, the Tezot's personal effects, stuff like that."
"Everything of value to planetary enforcement should be in her shop, which is yours, or whatever. I don't want it."
"As to her personal belongings," Rutek said, "I claim all of it by Doshing right of conquest." "Right of conquest?" Hal exclaimed incredulously. "That hasn't been declared here in over 80 solar rotations. By what right do you have—" "If you contest it, then I'll go straight to the embassies and create a diplomatic incident. Do you really want to get those cantankerous old assholes involved in this small thing?" "Fine, her crap belongs to you as Daishing right of conquest. I've got the paperwork myself," Hal replied with a tired sigh.
"Now, about the reward?" Selena asked.
Selena and Rutek were riding in a spaceship down to the planet. Selena's new spaceship, a small civilian-grade Void Hopper-class spaceship, was slave to a costly towing vehicle, as neither she nor Rutek knew how to pilot. The spacecraft had belonged to the Tezot, now, from Rutek's aid, belonged to Selena. The ride down planet side was shorter than taking the auto-elevator, and soon they had landed. After paying for long-term storage for her craft, Selena and Rutek left for the parking garage. As Rutek and Selena got onto his hoverbike, Rutek asked, "Your house?"
"No," Selena replied. "I don't feel safe there right now. Can I stay with you for a bit?"
"Sure."